Hey guys, happy Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. Mine was pretty good. I'm actually, if you can hear this in the background, I'm printing out it's an art print. It's a Jack Kirby homage. He drew a Conan uh, scene many years ago, and I don't know if it was ever published, but I found his pencil scans online, and so I thought, wow, I love Jack Kirby's work. Always love inking Jack Kirby, and so I took that pencil scan and inked it, and then I did a color iteration of it as well, and that was a commission piece that I sold, I guess maybe 2 years ago, and I am now I have art prints for sale of that piece, and I think there's three. It's one of three. This is the first one I've sold, so there's two more in this print. Here is the. This was the printed. This is an art print. It looks and feels like the original art. It's very similar. It's the same paper. It's the same comic template board. And you can even see the blue line pencils underneath it. So it's very similar to what the actual original art, what it looked like. This is an art print, and then I'm printing out the color print. I'll show that to you here in just a minute. It's still in the process of printing. While it's doing that, I'm working on a new commission. This is Enchantress, if I can say that, from Secret Wars, and I'm just really getting underway here with that this morning. I have a Whatnot show tonight at 7 p.m., so I'm going to be inking this piece over there on my drawing board this evening. But I wanted to at least get the pencils finished this morning. And what you're seeing here, so I have these little drawing mannequins, which are pretty awesome. This is the female one. I've got the male mannequin around here somewhere. But anyway, I use these whenever I'm looking for kind of an interesting pose or something that I really need a little bit of visual reference to draw. And so I used this pose that you see here. I photographed it, and then I placed it into the Clip Studio file that I'm working in. And down here is just a little photo reference of Enchantress. Can't touch that yet. It's still a little bit wet, so I gotta wait a minute or two to let that print dry. Anyway, so that's here just for my own quick reference. I have found that the key to using these mannequins is to not get too literal with them. They should just be basic guides. You still really need to understand human anatomy and to draw from life and not just literally copy what you're seeing, because if you do that, your figures will end up being somewhat stiff looking, I think. And so I always try to really just use it as a basic reference. I do like the hands. That's a big help. Hands are always tough. So it just gives me a little help here and just getting the basics established. Superhero art, I think, is best when it is a little cartoony. It's a little exaggerated. I'm not really photorealistic kind of artist. My work tends to be very much in the classic kind of comic book style. Just gonna hide that for a bit. Like, for instance, I'm gonna just kind of fill her out a little bit, her form. These mannequins tend to be a little skinny, a little too skinny, I think. The other thing to watch out for, especially if you're photographing these mannequins, is that at least my camera tends to warp the image a little bit the closer you get, even if you have it set to 1:1:1. So I always try to take the photo a little bit at a distance, and then I'll come in and crop it later. Like this hand, for instance, I didn't really follow the mannequin pose all that much, and this arm as well. It's kind of hidden behind her chest, and I pulled it out a little bit to make it a little more visible. Plus, Enchantress is not a waif. You know, she is a physically strong-looking woman. Beautiful, but very stout, I guess. So I don't want to stick too close to these mannequins in that regard. So I can get my Instagram page up. Flowing. Just interested in basic shapes right now, and I'm gonna just get rid of that photo. I don't really need it anymore. So now we've got this, I think, a pretty decent ruff. I'm going to continue to refine. Secret Wars was probably one of my first, it was kind of my gateway into the Marvel universe when that was first published in 1983. It really coincided with me starting to pick up a few Marvel comics in DC. So it really was my introduction, and what it was a great introduction to the Marvel universe. What better way to really get introduced to the Marvel world than Secret Wars? And I know the book was really crafted to sell toys, a toy line, but even so, it really just had a very, I don't know, accessible kind of writing, and the art was very accessible and clear and clean, and there was a little story with each of the characters. Everybody had a part to play, and it was a really just a great miniseries. And Jim Shooter, was an amazing writer when it came to dealing with these characters in a way that would be accessible to all ages. I think he had a great knack for that, because he started in comics at such a young age. I think he was like 14 or something when he was first hired at DC Comics. So he knew how to write for kids and for adults, really, to kind of... He was a lot like Stan Lee, I think, in his style. You know, he was able to really inject a lot of interest into characters just through their dialogue. He wasn't a nuanced writer, I wouldn't say. But he definitely knew the characters, and he knew how to tell a story. He knew the technical aspects of a story, with the beginning and the middle and the end, and how all of that pieces together. And Secret Wars is just it's still great. Alright, so there she is. Let's get her costume on here. I always have really liked Mike Zeck. He's just a great draftsman. And his characters are they're just very fluid looking and cartoony, but also believable. And I especially like his style of really inserting emotion into characters that are their faces are literally covered, like Spider-Man. You know, he could have an expression on Spider-Man's mask, or Iron Man, or Doctor Doom, and all these characters who wore these masks. And it's really not realistic to draw them like that, but it didn't really matter. I don't think I've ever drawn Enchantress before. She's got all this power here in her hand. fresh out of coffee. So one thing I like to do. So now I've got a basic sketch. So I'm going to flip the canvas. And what happens when I do that is it really. Oh, I didn't want to do it that way though. Let's flip. Rotate canvas. There we go. So when I flip it, hi Zix. No, that's Enchantress from Secret Wars. She was she's a part of Thor's band of characters. No, I did a Jean Grey, actually. Where is that? I'll show that to you. Last week, this is a Dark Phoenix sketch card cover that I finished last week. Penciled and inked. I think I finished this on the Whatnot show last Monday. It is for sale. If you go to my eBay store, I do have it listed. So I've got this flipped, and I flip it so I can. It helps me kind of get a more objective view of the art. I can sometimes see things that I may not have noticed before. This actually looks pretty spot on for what I want. I'm going to go ahead and just pencil it out here in this view and then flip it. Stands out that I might need to adjust. Thank you. I want to be known as the very clean artist. But seriously, I do try to keep a very clean page. When I was much younger, I didn't really care for that and didn't bother with it, and my art tended to have a lot of whiteout and just it was just kind of not. It was just kind of a mess, and I didn't realize that the resale value of your original pages was very important, and a lot of art collectors, they want to have a very clean original art page and not all this whiteout and things, or pencil lines that are carved into the paper, that you can't really erase. And so I really learned to develop a style, a method where my art tends to be, it's very clean. I very rarely use whiteout, and all of my art is penciled digitally, so when I print it out, it's printed in blue, so there literally are no pencil lines